Okay, so starting off at medical school, I think it's always very scary because you don't know what you're going to expect, you don't know what the workload is going to be like, and you're obviously thinking things are going to be so tough.
Dr. Charles, where you at? Man, I need a doctor. Where you at right now? Man, I need a...
So obviously the way how the exams work is you have 2 exams split over 2 days and you write the papers. They are multiple choice papers, so you don't really have to stress about writing or handwriting. The OSCEs is set over 7 stations, so you be in a rotation, you have some history, some procedures, and some examinations. The thing when it comes to medical school is really about balancing of time. You can't be too involved in one thing that's too extreme that takes up your time and not have any time to do work. Because if you overdo things, you run a risk of crashing before you've even hit the exam. So it's about working hard when it's needed and also being able to relax at the same time. Most of my friends would go out on a Wednesday, go out on a Friday night as well. They would go to MedSoc. As long as you have a good balance, as long as you know on some days you're going to go library and work in the evening, and then another day you're going to just go out and relax. If your balance is correct, you'll be fine. You just have to understand that you have a bigger workload compared to the rest of your friends, and sometimes you're going to have to work a bit more than others, but if you work hard and play hard, I think that's perfectly fine. But people say you can only do 2 things out of 3, so you can either sleep, you can either work hard, or you can party, and out of those 3 you can only do 2, and I found that to be so true. Living in student accommodation, I think that's one of the most important factors you have to really think about, because it will determine the sort of environment you're going to be living in during the year. If you're living in somewhere that's very noisy, it's going to be hard for you to study in your room and you're going to have to be going to the library. If you live somewhere that's far away from uni, that's going to implicate if you're going to make it to the 9 a.m.s in the morning. And so where you live is definitely important, and it also determines maybe the sort of people you live with, because if you're living in a party area, they're mostly going to be interested in going out and partying, and it's just going to be hard for you to stay focused and revise. So my day will consist of waking up at 6:30 in the morning, wake up, shower, eat breakfast, and I'll go to the gym, start my lecture day, have my lectures till about 1, come home for lunch till 2, go back and I'll finish at 5, come home, eat food, nap, library till about 10, 11, home, sleep, and then maybe go out the odd day every other couple of weeks. That was mostly my schedule during September. It seems like you have to get into a routine of a cycle of completing and doing things. So I think the first thing that I found most challenging at medical school was dealing with the amount of anatomy I had to learn. I thought that was the most challenging thing. First semester, which I found was mostly 9 to 5, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Wednesday half day. And that was not as bad as I thought it was, because most of the 9 to 5s, half of the days, also seminars, and seminars are not as pressured as lectures. So the also other thing which I found hard was the early clinical experience that I had to go through, because going through hospitals and going to GP visits, I found that really hard to fit that into a very busy day, especially when you have exams. The first thing that we did in medical school that was really different from everywhere else was going into the anatomy lab and seeing the cadavers for the first time, seeing the dead bodies for the first time. It can be something that's quite nerve-wracking, but you get used to it because you go in there so often, it actually stops being a thing anymore. For some people, it's useful to learn and go through the stuff that they've gone in the lectures with the cadavers. But personally, I did not really find it as useful as looking at pictures. So the way how the course is really structured, it starts off from an embryo, and it's basically the life cycle, and we do all the theory related to everything moving along that spectrum. So we look at something at its embryological origin, and then we look at how it changes as it grows and progresses, and that's what most of the theory was based on, even for the kidney, liver. First of all, we started with the main thorax, and we were just learning everything in that sort of a structure. The way how it's structured is you have lectures, and then after lectures you have an anatomy session. After anatomy session you have a seminar at the end to round up, and it's done in cases, especially here in Newcastle. And the way how it's structured, it really helps you learn. It makes everything really easy to absorb and understand, and I would definitely recommend picking Newcastle as one of your options, because they're really good at the way how they structure the course. It makes it so easy, because compared to when I did pharmacy, I found this course to be better structured in just helping you learn easier. The other thing that was also different was clinical skills. Clinical skills was hard at first, trying to remember the certain routines and principles that we had to go through. It's remembering a lot of routines, and it's a bit like a drama sort of thing. And by the end of it, we had about 7, 8, 10 procedures that we had to remember, and it's not as bad as it seems. It's always daunting to start with, but practice always makes perfect. But that was one of the things which was really different compared to any other sort of learning environment I'd been in. Moving on to exams, they can be challenging. I had an exam in November to start off with. That November exam went really well, and then the January exam went well, but that was obviously a lot harder because there was more information. The exam in June was even harder because it's all the information over the whole year and trying to amalgamate that. So the exam is always structured in 2 different papers, they're all multiple choice, and it's split over 2 days, so that's easier to just get them and done with. And in June we also had an OSCE, which was marked 7 stations. If you work well during the term, I think you'll be fine, but there is no way you can memorize all the stuff that we've done during the whole year in the last month. It's not going to happen. I don't think it's physically possible, because I have been working through the year and I was struggling to try and get all the information.
Dr. Charles, where you at? Man, I need a doctor. Where you at right now? Man, I need a doctor. Dr. Charles, where you at? Man, I need a doctor. Man, I need a had ambitions being a doctor, so I got it on the low. Got the prescription on the right while I go with the stethoscope.